Good morning, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Good morning, everybody. Most respected today's guests, Dr. Ajit Patnaik ji, former Chief Executive, Chilka Development Authority, Dr. Jiju P. Alex ji, Kerala State Planning Board member, and our former colleague from CMFRI, and of course, the faculty and of Kerala Agricultural University, Dr. J.K. Sundarai, coordinator, Dr. D. Panda, Dr. Sivaraman, all our senior colleagues, all the attendees of this particular webinar, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome you all to ICAR SIFA Bhubaneswar and welcome you all to this national webinar on strengthening research and promoting innovation through research collaboration, which is being organized by this institute under the Jan Bhagidari initiative, contributing to the spirit of G20. Sir, as you are aware, India is leading G20 presidency 2023 with the theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The third meeting of education working group which will be held at Bhubaneswar during 27th to 29th of April of this month. And ICAR SIFA has been chosen as one of the standalone institutes out of 25 institutes, besides 10 anchor institutes and many participating institutes in Odisha, and which are taking this Jan Bhagidari initiative in different forms. So ICAR SIFA has launched this program, Jan Bhagidari Initiative program, on 1st of April with a lead lecture by Professor S. Ayapan, former Director General, Secretary there. And besides, we are also conducting several student sensitization programs, plantation drives, and series of webinars. And in fact, the first webinar of this series was being conducted on 18th of April, and Professor Paritosh Mahanti from Department of Chemistry, IIT Roorkee, and Joe Kazakuchan from Principal Scientist from CMFRI. Both of them, they delivered fantastic lecture on that particular day. And these webinars, mostly it is to imbibe spirit of participation and ownership with India's G20 presidency in the state. And today's lecture, we have two very important speakers, Dr. Jiju P. Alex and Dr. Ajit Patnaik ji, who will be delivering on different aspects like innovation in agriculture and allied sector and its uptake in policy. And Dr. Patnaik will deliver on Chilika restoration and innovative eco-restoration approach, who has worked a lot on, particularly on biodiversity and conservation of natural resources. So we'll be having two fantastic speakers. I will not take much time, and I request directly Dr. Sundarai to start introduce both the speakers and start the program. Thank you very much. Once again, welcome you to this institute.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for welcoming the guests and participants. So let me introduce Professor Jiju P. Alex. Professor Jiju P. Alex is currently the member of Kerala State Planning Board, dealing with the centralized planning, housing, and art and culture. He was teaching at Kerala Agriculture University. He was formerly director of Extension KAU, and he graduated from KAU and got his doctoral degree from IIR in New Delhi. He was a scientist with the ICAR CMFRI Cochin before moving to the university. He had also worked with Information Kerala Mission as head of its HRD department on deputation basis. His areas of interest are agriculture, rural development, development communication, democratic decentralization, technology society interface, innovation management, entrepreneurship development, and HRD and e-governance. He was instrumental in designing the training methodology of e-governance programs for local self-government institutions in Kerala. He has led several research projects on about topics, and he has published widely, guided PhD students, and participated in many national and international conferences. He is a member of the Board of Management of the Kerala Bank He has also served as a member of academic and policy level committees of many academic and research institutions in the country. At the State Planning Board, he deals with decentralized planning, housing, art, and culture. So with this introduction, I request Professor GGP Alex to make his lecture on the topic Innovation in Agriculture and Allied Sector and its Uptake Policy. Sir, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Sahu. Thank you, Dr. Shivraman, and all my dear colleagues who have gathered over here on this auspicious occasion of celebrating the presidency of India in the G20, and also the very important event which marks this celebration, SIFA being identified as one of the leading agencies to spearhead the discussions on the initiatives by India in research and innovation in agriculture and allied sectors. So I'm so happy that I have been invited to deliver this lecture. And I would try to draw the major contours of innovations in agriculture and allied sectors as observed currently by different nations across the world, and particularly India, in the context of the development that we are dreaming of, and how the agricultural innovation systems in the country could be further strengthened by entering into different collaborative structures, which are very important to forge ahead the process of innovation. In fact, I would just try to limit my presentation to maybe, for us agreed upon earlier, maybe to 35 to 40 minutes at the most, and then leave the rest of the time for discussions among the participants. I'm also looking forward to hearing much from Dr. Ajit Patnaik, because I had been to Chilka Lake a few years back and was fascinated by the ecosystem and how it is being preserved. I would like to hear more from you, because that is going to be a beacon project wherein all the theoretical things which I would be discussing now could be are being practiced, maybe particularly in terms of conservation, innovation, and so many other things which we are going to discuss right now. So in fact, I think I would share my screen. So is it visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible. So only thing, presentation mode you need to.
I'm trying to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's okay.
Fine, yes,
Okay.
sir.
So as I told you, I have been asked to talk on innovations in agriculture and allied sectors and their uptake in policy, which is a fairly complicated topic, which is going to be a bit difficult as well. But at the same time, I would try to confine my reflections on this particular topic with reference to what we usually do in the agriculture research systems, particularly in the context of Indian Council of Agriculture Research Organizations and also the state agriculture universities. So in fact, we have been talking about innovation for quite some time. And ever since, there has been changes after the era of liberalization in the country.
Sir, are you there? There is some network issues, I think. We lost the connection. Yeah.
Is it visible or how is it?
No, sir, you can again share the slides. It was somewhere we lost you. Yeah.
Okay, there was some problem in between.
Yeah, yes.
So we know that as I told you, innovation is an emerging concern, and we have been talking about this for quite some time. And we have to understand the concept of innovation in greater details, particularly the context in which innovation is being propagated. In fact, innovation for development has got a different context altogether, particularly because of the fact that modern economies are facing several challenges. And these challenges call for new forms of collective action. We have been mostly depending on the public sector in India for several decades, particularly after the formation of the nation, after independence. And later on, we had switched on to a more predominantly liberalized economy, and the contours have been redefined. And this has necessitated a relook at the systems that we have been following. And the socio-economic challenges that the country is currently facing requires an altogether new methodology and approach. And this methodology and approach basically call for new forms of collective action between the public stakeholders as well as the private stakeholders. So, for example, investment in research has been increasing in the private sector. It has not increased concomitantly in the public sector. So how do you conserve the propensity of the public sector in research? How do you be able to go along with the private sector? These are all issues which are emerging. So this has necessitated innovation. This has necessitated changes in the way we look at things. So basically, we have to adopt new approaches in solving problems which have got social and technological dimensions. And the social development and technological development have been evolving almost side by side. They have been evolving alongside, and they have been complementing each other. Technology contributing to social development, and social development further contributing back to technological development. So these processes which have been happening in the Indian society have to be very clearly understood if you really want to understand the context of innovation. And also we have seen that over a period of time, the nature of technological options for social development have also changed. They have mostly switched over to absolutely multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary. And of late, they have become much more transdisciplinary in nature. If you want to solve a problem, it cannot be done by one single discipline. It will have to be done by several disciplines together. So this means we have to initiate dialogue between different stakeholders, different disciplines. And there has to be, I would say, seamless amalgamation of the applications of natural sciences and social sciences. These have become very important. So the new scenario calls for an entirely new approach wherein there would be dialogue between different stakeholders, there would be interdisciplinary approach, there would be transdisciplinary approach, and also coexistence of both natural sciences and social sciences. So this is the context in which we are talking about innovations. So when you talk about the significance of innovation, I think everybody of us agree to the fact that innovation is a driver of economic growth. This is the most crucial driver. In fact, this concept was put forward by Joseph Schumpeter way back in the maybe initial part of the 20th century, who has been working on the concept of innovation. And he identified that development has happened only because of these innovations. Innovations are, I would say, drastic changes that happen in technology to find out solutions to a problem. So innovations happen quite often, and these innovations have led to changes, and these changes gets institutionalized and standardized, which further leads to further changes and innovation process that goes on and on. And that is one reason why there has been substantial increase in material production and economic development. That was a theory by Schumpeter. Basically, now we have already largely identified innovation as a crucial driver of economic growth. And it has also necessitated enhancement of competitiveness and also increasing social well-being. So competitiveness is something which has to be very closely understood. Competitiveness in terms of your research capability, competitiveness in terms of your handling things, competitiveness in terms of application of technology, etc., how to be enhanced. So innovation is something which decides the pace at which we try to enhance our competitiveness. In fact, in a very broad and diversified sense, innovation does not mean that it is only a question of new technology being evolved. It is not only a question of technology, it is also a question of how do you diffuse this technology and practices and processes in a societal context. So that is important, because as agricultural scientists, we have been involved, we have been doing this process, we have been involved in this process, we have developed technologies for ages, we have been developing technologies, and we have been propagating these technologies among the society, and we have tried several methods of propagating these technologies among the society. Now, the entire gamut of approach, things have changed, the approach has changed. Now it is not only a question of creation of a new technology, in what innovative way you would be able to make this diffuse among the people, among different stakeholders, so that it would ensure economic growth. That is a great challenge. So in fact, all these processes can happen only if you have got an innovation policy. So this is basically the significance of innovation and innovation policy. Policy has to be understood from the perspective of innovation. Innovation is finding a solution, an innovative way of finding a solution to a problem. And it is not only a question of evolving a technology, it is also a question of how do you take this technology and the new process to the masses, and how does it become instrumental in the process of economic development, and how does the policy basically facilitates this process is the great concern, is the main concern. So you can just read, I have emphasized a few things in different color. You can see the innovation policy, for that matter, touches diverse policy areas such as education and training, information and communication technology, and infrastructure development, other infrastructure development. That basically speaks about an environment in which innovation is possible. It is not only a question of science and technology, it involves skilling, it involves education, it involves information and dissemination, it involves communication, and also it involves the infrastructure facilities that are available in a societal context. So now we will have a close look at the prerequisites of an innovation system. In fact, an innovation system has got certain prerequisites. Unless we have these prerequisites, innovation system would not be able to thrive or exist. So in fact, if you really want to have an innovation system in place, I told you we have to have a congenial policy. I would deliver, and I would deliberate on these policy aspects later in detail. Basically, there has to be a variety of policy areas. There is a variety of policy areas in a country. So you are talking, say, for example, you are talking about developmental policy in the rural areas, development policy in industry. You have development policy in rural development, development policy with respect to agriculture. You have development policy with respect to science and technology. So you can see that most of these areas are working in silos. They are all kept aloof. They are solitary in nature. They don't have any interaction with each other. So this is a major important thing. Basically, unless you transcend these silos, unless the departmentalism and
There is some network issue. Yeah, sir has come back again.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Again, we lost you. So we can reshare the slides again.
Okay. I don't know what is happening. My connection is okay, but still I think there is some problem in between, it seems.
Yes.
So we have been talking about the prerequisites of an innovation system. And this prerequisite of an innovation system, the most important prerequisite is that we have to transcend the confinements of our departments. Say, for example, the silos in which we work together. I have been talking about our experiences in the research organization. How many of the departments or divisions are having I'm extremely sorry. 1 minute, please.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Hello. I think,
Yes, sir, you are audible.
am I audible? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is important because we have to deal with several institutions. Say, for example, the process of innovation requires us to deal directly with technology. We have to deal with industry. We have to deal with science, education, and institutions in charge of financial. Unless we know how to work with this institution to break the silos, it is going to be difficult for us. And also, we have to engage with the government. That is a very important thing. That is again an important prerequisite as far as innovation is concerned. So how do you deal with the government? How do you engage with the government is something which has to be understood in close details. So now we can have a close look at the innovation process. We talk about innovation. We always talk about innovation. What exactly is this innovation process basically? This innovation process has been mostly borrowed from industrial parlance. Basically, this has been a topic of discussion in the industrial sector. And of late, we have started talking about agricultural innovation systems and so on. This innovation process basically is translating, as I told you earlier, a new or existing knowledge into a product or a solution. That process is a bit difficult. That process is a bit complicated. It is not just production of an invention. It is not just an invention. It is not just finding out a new product. It is not just finding out a new process. Basically, packaging the entire product and the process or the protocol in such a way that it becomes useful to the society. It is a segment of the society, a particular segment of the stakeholders, which can be provided as a service, which can be provided as a good, which can be marketed, which can be projected as a commercial output. That is what is basically referred to as an innovation process. So basically it does not end with research alone. It basically has got several processes involved in this, and all these processes are well connected to each other. Several people are to be involved in that process, and this is the reason why I said innovation process is something which requires a lot of networking and a lot of dialogue between different stakeholders. So institutions, businesses, companies, and organizations that pursue excellent, successful innovation projects have something definite that puts them ahead of others. That's a very important thing. So if you really want to package your product in such a way that it becomes a commercial output, which can be consumed by a segment of the society, which can be adopted by a segment of the society, that means you have to have an edge compared to others. You have to have some comparative advantage compared to others. So what exactly is this comparative advantage, and how do you acquire this comparative advantage in an institution is something which has to be studied in detail. Basically, this comparative advantage cannot be developed all of a sudden. This comparative advantage of an institution can be developed only in a slow process. It has to evolve over a period of time. Basically, when you come to agriculture and agricultural institutions, we have got certain lacunae, I would say, certain constraints which we have been facing for quite some time. First and foremost, we have been catering to the requirements of the masses, particularly the farming community. And in India, we have been mostly concentrating on production technologies. And these production technologies were directly, maybe after some trials, after maybe proving the consistency of performance of the technology, we used to take the technology to the fields. We used to spread it across the field. We used to diffuse it. But now, in the globalized era, in the globalized economy, it is not only the farmers who are at the other end. We have got several different types of stakeholders. We have entrepreneurs, we have large-scale entrepreneurs, we have business people, we have different types of consumers on the other end of the spectrum. And when you reach out to that spectrum, I think we have to have customized solutions to people. So how do you make this customization possible is a very important thing. Maybe if you really want to make this customization possible, you have to customize your researchers. Your relationship will have to be customized. Your contacts and your connectivities have to be customized. So the entire process will have to be customized in such a way that you cater to the requirement of the consumers at the other end of the spectrum. That is a very important thing. So basically, it's a question of seeing the entire process of product development. It need not be a product alone. It can be, say, for example, from SIFA, it could be a new breed of fish, or it could be a new feed, or it can be a new technology of growing fish, or it can be a new value addition process. It can be anything. It could be even a social innovation. It could be even an organizational innovation. It could be a marketing innovation. It could be a new marketing intervention. It could be a device. It could be an idea. It could be anything. So innovation basically refers not only to a technology, as I told you, it's basically it is referred to as a new method of production. It can be a new method of source of supply. It can be a new market. It can be a new good. It can be even a new organizational structure in an industry. And basically, it can be anything which can replace an archaic old system, which can be anything which infuses new energy, which can infuse or bring in new enthusiasm, which can ultimately shake up the whole system. And maybe it is something which can create a new system altogether. It can be a concept, it can be a product, or it can be a service. But how do you produce this within the confinements of the system is something which has to be told. That is again coming back to what I had told you at the end of this, at the beginning of this particular slide. We have been mostly concentrating on production technologies. Now we have to think of packaging the entire process in such a way that it becomes acceptable to the market forces. It becomes acceptable to the consumers. So we have to go miles ahead. Maybe we have to depart ourselves. We have to divert our ways. We have to change our ways. What we have been doing earlier, we have to now change. So now we can have a brief look at the innovation process, the different steps, because these are all certain things which you would be knowing, but I just wanted to contextualize the whole process and wanted to situate the concept of innovation in the context of maybe ICAR, not only ICAR, any other institution for that matter, particularly in the agriculture research, and also to contextualize in the current scenario so that maybe India is going to emerge as a major economic force in the world. And India is lacking, I would say, grossly lacking the culture of innovation in many of its sectors. And I would say agriculture is a major sector which faces this kind of a lacuna. That is something which I have realized. Maybe many of you would be accepting this argument. Maybe you would also be maybe having the same opinion that in the agriculture research, not only in the agriculture research in allied sectors, we have to have much more innovative programs. We have to have much more innovative products, and we have to integrate the process of innovation in the whole process of research and development in agriculture. So coming back to the process of innovation, they have got different steps. The first and foremost is you have to have an idea. We have to ideate a product, a process. We have to generate an idea. We have to mobilize that particular idea. And then you have to find out whether this idea is going to be feasible by different screening methods and experimentation. And also, basically in innovation, it has to evolve as a solution. It's not just an idea. It has to resolve an issue which you face maybe in the field or maybe in the industry or in any other segment. Whatever you have found as a problem will have to be resolved, and this idea should help resolve that issue. It should evolve as a solution, and later on this solution should not lie as a solution. It should not lie as a product. It has to be further shapen, further maybe formulated into a commercialized and marketable produce, which can be adopted by larger masses. And that step 4 after that, this particular product which has been commercialized, which has been transformed into a consumable product, which can be adopted by greater masses, will have to be diffused or will have to be implemented. So this symbol, it may appear to be simple, but involving the institution, the scientific community, or equipping the institution to get into this process of innovation is going to be tremendous. It's going to be very difficult. So this is the process of innovation. And in agriculture particularly, we have to have a close look at how agriculture innovation systems particularly work and they perform. See, basically, innovation in agriculture and developing economies is something which has to be very closely studied. So generating and applying new knowledge is important for all enterprises, including farming. But what actually happens is new knowledge that can enhance productivity and competitiveness and sustainability in farming is not widely adopted at scale. This is a very important thing. Why is it not adopted at scale? Earlier, maybe particularly students of social sciences and agriculture would know, we used to blame the farmers. We used to blame the farmers on account of their socio-economic profile. We used to say some of them did not have much better education, so they refused to adopt. We used to say these people did not have the physical infrastructure, so they refused to adopt. Basically, we used to put the entire blame on the farmers. We used to say they did not adopt because they did not have the attitude, they did not have the knowledge, or they did not have the infrastructure or the physical amenities. But basically that concept has changed. It is a question of how do you address the issues of the end user. The problem is whether you have actually addressed the issue of the end user. And many cases you can see that you have not basically addressed the issue of the end user, and that was one reason why you have failed in adopting, or maybe you have failed in making a person adopt a particular technology. So in many cases in agriculture, the scale at which adoption takes place is very low. So now this could be attributed to the lack of innovativeness in the whole process of product development. It would have been adopted. Onus is upon the research community. Onus is upon the, they don't have much innovativeness in this. It was not adopted. It is not the responsibility of the consumer. Basically, the consumer would have adopted if it had been suitable for him. So that is the concept behind this. So this lack of innovation in agriculture has led to the search of new frameworks such as innovation systems. Basically, Innovation systems in agriculture has been developed based on the realization that many of the innovations that we used to call as innovations were not adopted, and we had put the responsibility on the farmer or the end user, blaming him that he did not have certain attributes. Basically, now that concept has been reversed. Now we have to look at things from different perspective. If the technology was not adopted, it must have been because it lacked certain things. It did not lack innovate. It did not have innovativeness. So now, if you really want to have innovativeness infused into a product, you have to look at the innovation system. So this innovation system is a complex system, and this complex system has got several components, and these several components have to be observed in detail. And in the process of evolving an innovation, all these components have to be taken care of, have to be addressed. So the innovation system is basically how do you develop the capabilities to address the various elements of the innovation system. So agricultural innovation system, I do not want to get into these details. We know that agricultural innovation systems, you can just read the lines in blue. It's a network of organizations, enterprises, and individuals focused on bringing new products and new processes and new forms of organizations into social and economic use, together with the institutions and policies that affect their innovative behavior and performance. In nutshell, it is nothing but a complex system of organizations, enterprises, etc., who are involved in the product development, who are involved in consumption, who are involved in adoption. And you have to find out the characteristic features of each of these elements when you go for product development or in development of an innovation. This is very important. So you have to very closely understand what are the value chains, what are the supply chains, what are the characteristics of the product, what are the characteristics of the consumers, what are the different forces that play in that. How does a new system, the process of technology development, and also the process of adoption of technology. So basically, a very brief picturization of what I have told you. Basically, the agriculture innovation system has got different actors and roles, and also different innovations. You can see it has got an overarching outer circle, which is governed by government policy and regulatory framework, and also the consumer demands. And within that framework, you have the agriculture research system. We are all the people who are involved in that. We have the education system, because particularly the people who are educated in that particular discipline are stakeholders in that. There are also input and service suppliers, and agriculture advisory services are there. Private actors are there. Producers are there. Financial service suppliers are there. There are different stakeholders in an agricultural innovation system. Maybe this happens with fisheries as well. So take the example of freshwater aquaculture. You go to a particular product and find out which are all the agencies involved in transacting a particular product, a fish product. How does transaction take place in the entire process of fishing and also post-fishing operations? What are the different supply chains available? What are the different value chains available for all the actors? And how does the policy basically influence the whole process of fishing? All these things have to be understood from a system perspective to understand the process of innovation. So this is very important. I think the entire crux of the idea, particularly the entire crux of today's lecture, is how do you basically address the issue of innovation systems from a system perspective. So basically in crop sciences and agriculture, these are all the different types of innovations as we see on this slide. We have hello.
Sir, you are audible, sir.
Audible? Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. Kindly go ahead.
Okay.
Sir, only full screen today.
Okay. So usually in innovations in agriculture and allied sectors, we have the crop improvement innovations, We have the technological and industrial innovation as we do as of now. And also, most importantly, we have the organizational, managerial, and economic innovations. I do not know as an institution, SIFA, how much innovations have gone into, maybe how you have innovated in each of these different types of innovations. Maybe in crop improvement, you have done a lot of work. Maybe technical and technological and industrial relations, you might have done a lot of work. And you might have come up with different innovations in that respect, from that respect. And also, there is something which is lacking in many of our institutions, particularly in agriculture and allied sectors, is organizational, managerial, and economic innovations, particularly with respect to the end users outside the research system. So this is something which has to be, maybe I think, which we have to address a bit more cautiously. So when you come to innovations and policies, when you talk about innovation, you have to find out that innovations have led to policies and vice versa. If you really want to have a very robust innovative system, an innovation system, you have to have robust and congenial policy environment. At the same time, a congenial policy environment would lead to a great deal of innovation in science and technology. So basically, fostering innovations in agriculture and identifying the impact of innovations in society and institutions is a very important thing. Basically, what we aim in agriculture is transformation of Indian agriculture by innovation for improved nutrition and income of the farmers. This is our motto. And we are talking about climate change, we are talking about sustainability, we are talking about new markets, we are talking about doubling farmers' income, and so many slogans have come in between. Basically, we want to have sustainable productive systems. We want to have profitable systems. We want to have better income for the profile of the farming community of the country. It is not going to economic stratification of the farmers of the country, and how different sectors of the farming community could be addressed through different types of technologies is something which has to be understood. It is not only important for SIFA, it is important for any such organization. So in talking about innovations and policies, basically, as I told you, formulating a conducive policy environment is essential for enhancing innovations. And if you enhance innovation, that would also sometimes lead to new policies. And assessing the impact of the innovation on society is very important for revisiting the policies. Say, for example, we have seen in Kerala, for example, there has been a ban on fishing, a troll. A troll ban has been introduced as an innovation, I would say, a policy innovation, a policy improvement, and absolutely a new idea, particularly with respect to conservation of some of the fish species. So troll ban was revised several times, particularly in view of the requirement of the farmers. So such things happen every now and then. So in agriculture also, we have gone for, say, for example, crop insurance. The crop insurance policies have been revised. Crop insurance systems have been newly introduced. So these changes happen in response to the requirements of the people. So constant assessment of the impact of the innovation on society and revisiting of the policies is also required. And reviewing policies have to be done with reference to the impact of innovations. That is very important. So now, again, coming back to role of, furthermore detailing on role on policies on innovation, you can just find out the more the innovation policy creates an environment that facilitates sharing of knowledge and information, higher the impact of the policy on the firm's perceived capacity to change. So basically, if the policy environment has got the capacity to create a congenial environment, it would certainly lead to further enhancement of innovation. That has been invariably true across countries. So, for example, government's policies do hinder and regulate innovation. Say, for example, I would come to that later. I think I would come to some of the examples later, and we will discuss this particular slide maybe by giving us a few examples. So basically, the policies and regulations can create obstacles as well as it can enhance innovation in a policy context. You just have a look at this particular figure. Basically, the innovation policy framework can be seen in this perspective. We have a favorable business environment, then certainly it would lead to innovation. So how do you create a business environment is a very important thing. So ease of doing business, say for example, ease of doing business is a very important policy guideline or a policy measure which can be instituted in a country to facilitate growth. So ease of doing business would certainly provoke several people to come up with or to provoke people to take up enterprises and initiatives. So unless you have this favorable environment, the propensity of the people to initiate enterprises would be less. And if the propensity of people to initiate enterprises is less, then the innovation process would also be less. Take the example of SIFA, or maybe for that example, any research institution. Your state has got a very feasible environment where several people are coming coming forward with the idea of starting enterprises. Then the R&D institutions also will have to respond to that. They will have to come up with new solutions. They have to come up with new strategies. They have to come up with new products. So the state policy is a larger determinant of innovation from that point of view. And second one is, say, for example, the infrastructure and business platforms in a country. If you don't have infrastructure facilities and business platforms, then that environment is not, I would say, congenial for business or innovation. Certainly, innovation process would retard. Most importantly is investment in scientific research. Unless you go for huge investment in scientific research, this innovation process would not take off at all. See, compare the kind of investment done in the agriculture sector or in the education sector or in the R&D as a whole in the country. And you can see that we have not been able to have very impressive investment in R&D. Compared to the R&D in developed countries, see, it is only 0.75% of the total GDP in India, whereas comparatively it is almost about 1.75% at the global average. So if you don't have adequate R&D investment in different important sectors, innovation is not going to take off at all. And another important thing is the quality workforce. So quality workforce is something which is very important. You have to have skilled workforce who have got knowledge in emerging technologies, in state-of-art facilities, and state-of-art knowledge has to be acquired by the manpower in an institution if you really want to innovate. And also the institution as well as the government should be having stringent and focused innovation policy. The most important question is whether the institution has an innovation policy or not, and how has it formulated the innovation policy. And if it has formulated the innovation policy, what were the determinants that have been very, very decisive in making that policy? And how do you take the policy ahead? How do you bring forth various priorities in that policy document or in that policy perspective? So these are all very important things which have to be done at the managerial level. So I have put this framework just to explain how different factors would influence innovation. It is important at the national level, it is important at the state level, and also it is important at the institution level. And the first thing is whether you should have the willingness, whether you have the willingness to change or not. If the institution has the willingness to change, certainly it can change. Even with limited resources, it would be able to change. At the same time, even with the willingness to change, you should have the capacity to change. Capacity to change is something which is related to your core competencies. Whether you have the core competencies to respond to the changes that are happening outside. So you have to understand that we are in a situation where there are different stakeholders, as I told you. Again, coming to some statistics, I would say the entire R&D investment by the public sector is shrinking. At the same time, R&D investment in the private sector is increasing. And we have to be in an environment where we would be overcome by the R&D investment in the private sector. In due course, what would happen is we will have to face stiff competition from the private sector R&D. In such situations, unless you have the capability to change, unless you acquire the core competencies to change, it is going to be difficult for us to thrive. And the most important thing, the last one, is opportunity to change. Whether the government gives you opportunity to change, whether you have the opportunity to exchange your resources, whether you have opportunity to go and get engaged with the international organization, whether you have got the opportunity to find out the pulses at the grassroots level, whether you have opportunity to forge into linkages, enter into linkages with other agencies. These are all very important things. Whether you have got opportunities to engage with the private sector. So these are all important, and all these factors do influence the process of innovation. So basically, I would say I would just depart from the context in which I have been trying to explain. You have to just read a quote by Dixon, which I found very interesting. The nature of technological innovation as a political process means that those who in our society control the process of innovation are able to use this control to strengthen their position, a situation in which scientists and technologists become direct accomplices. I don't want to go to the details. You can just read. This just says that the people who are in possession of power, who are in control of the process of innovation, are going to make changes in the society. And if they make changes in the society, it could be have a positive impact as well as a negative impact. So it is always better to have positive impact in such a way that the process of innovation benefits the poor. The process of innovation benefits the masses. The process of innovation benefits the small and marginal farmers, the small producers in the Indian context. Unless this is ensured, the people who control the process of innovation would make it inegalitarian. Equitable distribution of resources would not be possible if the innovation process is not in the right hands. So this is very important. So we have got, as a scientific community, we have got a moral responsibility. Basically, technological innovation has to be seen as a political process. Why is it so? If it is in the hands of the people who have got resources, then it is going to be used mostly by those people who are influential. If it is going to be in the hands of the multinational corporates, then it is going to be used by them to make profit. But if the innovation process is going to be in the public sector with the Indian Council of Agricultural Research or the State Agriculture University, then it is going to benefit the masses, going to benefit the common farming community of the country. So I just wanted to note down this particular aspect, which is discussed in the technology society research domain. Just wanted to tell you these details. So basically, fostering an innovation or fostering innovation in an institution, if you really want to innovate in an institution, you have to have some prerequisites. The first and foremost is you have to understand the social realities. You have to have a very good understanding of the socio-economic situation. In SIFA, for example, or maybe in the Kerala Agriculture University, or maybe in the Central Tuber Research Institute, wherever you go, you have to have a very finer understanding of what exactly is the ground reality. With respect to the production process at the grassroots, that has to be understood. And secondly, you have to have very fine understanding of the profile of the stakeholders. And thirdly, I would say we should be having very good understanding of the development gaps, technology gaps, etc. Particularly from the research point of view, this is very important. And what are all the different appropriate technologies which can be used by different stakeholders also should be known to us. And fourthly, and most importantly, the availability of resources and resource constraints have to be very, very thoroughly understood by the research community if you really want to make an institution innovative. And at the same time, you have to have different support systems at the grassroots level. What are the different linkages that can be entered into by an institution? Who are all the people with whom you can have contracts? Who are all the agencies with whom you can have relationships? Who are all the people with whom you can work in partnership? These are all very important things. And now, particularly in the new scenario, you have to have very finer understanding of the value chains and supply chains of a product. Unless you have finer understanding of the value chains and supply chains and its the manifestations and nuances, it's going to be very difficult for us to understand what exactly is the innovation process involved in different phases of this value addition, different phases of this supply mechanism. That is very important. And from the perspective of the scientist, I would say we have to understand the potential for interdisciplinary action is also important. So I told you, there are instances where a biological researcher will have to work with a social researcher, and economists will have to work with a marine scientist. So that kind of linkages are very important. Everybody is important from that point of view. Each one will have its perspective. You have to sit together, put together the ideas, come into consensus, and also evolve a new idea so that an issue could be resolved rather than working in silos. So also it is important that we have to find out the existing networks, because they are all very important. Say, for example, in fisheries and all that, I have worked in fisheries sector for almost about 3 to 4 years, and I have found varied social networks that are there in the Indian marine system. For example, there are systems of trade, very indigenous systems of trade in various maritime states. The systems of trade that are available in the eastern coast is different from what we have in the western coast. The systems of maybe fishing, how do you use the resources, the system which have evolved over ages, they are all different from place to place. You have to find out different networks and agencies which are working, and also the potential for networking and resource sharing. They are all very important. Unless you have deeper understanding as an institution of all these aspects, particularly in the fields in which you are working, then the process of initiating innovation is going to be difficult. So there are also a new perspectives, awareness of the scope of the social challenges, involvement of various stakeholders, learning spaces, funding probabilities, citizen involvement in the process, the cooperation with local public entities, local bodies, and non-governmental organizations, extracting good practices from model cases, applying the good practices in different contexts, etc., are very important when you talk about innovation. So basically, maybe wrapping up whatever I have said, really want to innovate, we have to have a close look at this particular figure. So an institutional innovation should be taking into consideration the innovation context, the organizational characteristics, the social characteristics, the environmental factors, the governmental factors, I would say, the policy factors, the overarching policy environment in which you are working. All those have to be taken into consideration. And you have a problem, you have to find out a solution. You have to evolve as an institution. You have to be a responsive institution. You have to respond to the requirements of the market. You have to respond to the requirements of the stakeholders. You have to respond to the requirements of the farming community. So the requirements are varied. Requirements are innumerable. Requirements are different. Requirements do not have the same texture or structure. Requirements are varied and diverse. So every time you would be forced to respond to various requirements. In that process, you have to evolve as an institution. You have to churn out innovations every now and then. You have to have new forms of organization. You have to have new forms of service delivery. You have to have new forms of product development. You have to have new forms of, say, process developments, etc., So all these things can happen unless you have final understanding of the institutional determinants. So you should know the value and output. You should have a diversity with respect to your activity and the efficiency which would bring you the reputation. You should have the propensity to reform and improve. And also you have absolute consciousness about the quality and control of the products and processes that you are going to produce or innovate. These are all very important. Unless you have all these institutional arrangements, unless you have checks and balances, Unless you have your own systems of determining the value and output, reputation, the propensity of improvement and quality and control, an institution will not be able to innovate. And also coming back to, again, the next step in yellow, you can find out the much more finer functions. See, network engagement, institutional logic and capabilities, economic conditions, policies and intermediaries, institutional strategies, technology readiness, institutional synergies, very important. Synergy is some word which we use to find out the way in which we harness various resources, harness the human resources, harness human efforts, so that it would lead to a single large product. Much more effective intervention by different people together is what is called synergy. So how do you bring out this institutional synergy? How do you act as a single entity, not as different entities? As a single effective entity, how do you act as an institution, as a single entity, is a very important question. And in that process, some stakeholders will have to be given incentives. You will have to be supported. Some of them will have to be motivated. You have intrinsic mechanisms of knowledge management. You should have your own methods of finding out solutions. You have your own methods of protocols. So that is why the culture of the organization should be reimagined in such a way that it facilitates the whole process of innovation. That is very important. If an institution can reimagine itself in such a way that it responds to the requirements of the greater society, then it will have to necessarily evolve as an innovative institution. So that is the most important thing. So I don't want to go to further details. There are several future opportunities. You can enter into different types of networks with different organizations. You have to have international and national networks. You can have your own institutional intelligence. You should have your own repository of knowledge. You can have your own institutional legacy. You should be able to prepare to respond to contingent situations. So as an institution, it would be a blooming of the potential of the institution as a very effective organization. So this is what exactly would be the final result of the process of infusing innovation into the entire processes of managing an organization in the science and technology sector. So I think we have got several things to discuss. I just would like to have a glance at some very important policy initiatives which can boost innovation and wrap up this session. Most important thing is, as I told you earlier, if you really want to have an innovation system in place, you have to enhance the R&D expenditure. You have to have much more focus on skilling, not only the scientific community, the other subsidiary manpower should also be skilled, and a larger community outside the institution or outside the society, outside the premises of an institution, the larger society also will have to be skilled. We have surpassed China in population 2 days back. Our latest population figures are still not out. We might have surpassed China almost about maybe, I think, 1 or 2 years back. But we don't have the statistics as of now. As of the current statistics, we have surpassed only maybe 2 days back. And we basically believe that this is going to be of much benefit to the country on account of the demographic dividend. The population, the working population between the age of 15 to 55 is going to be enormous in India. And we would be able to make use of this demographic dividend till 2055. And this large human resources in India can be of use only if you have definite programs, very imaginative programs to skill them. Unless you skill them, it is not going to be of much use. It would rather be a debacle, I would say. So skilling is a very important thing. The skilling can be in different sectors. Skilling can be in your sector, skilling can be in other sectors as well. Then training the workers in the science, technology, engineering, and math stream is also very important. I think there are so many other things, incentives, and so many other policy perspectives which have to be initiatives which have to be initiated. Maybe it's not our take. Basically, it has to be done by the government. So this is basically the whole perspective of innovation in the agriculture system, and I have tried to outline the contours, the broad contours of innovation process in agriculture, R&D, and agricultural, I would say, development. I think this would evoke some thoughts in you, particularly in shaping up your organization, particularly in viewing the organizational objectives, and also in formulating new perspectives with regard to readiness of the institution in fostering innovation. So I am so thankful to the organizers, particularly Jitendra, and also the most respected director of SIFA, who have been kind enough to invite me. I do not know whether I have done justice to the topic, or maybe there have been some interruptions in between, but still I am so thankful that I have been invited. Thank you so much for the patient listening. Maybe if somebody have got some clarification or something, we can maybe spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes for that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I request any of our colleagues to interact if they have any specific questions. We can take up maybe in 5 minutes time.
Yeah, I will have one clarification. Professor Alex, you might be knowing about the iCreate, which was created in Ahmedabad in the collaboration with Israel government. And it was mostly decided to have to elevate the ranking of Indian Innovation Index. So do you have any thoughts on that? What exactly and how far it has gone?
I don't have the figures with me. I would check and maybe I would try to find out.
Sure.
So this innovation index, as far as we are concerned, what I have found from literature is that we are much below, I would say, particularly with respect to the innovation index, maybe the propensity to come up with innovations, which are reflected in terms of maybe various intellectual property products, maybe, and also maybe patents, etc., are comparatively low. But we have been picking up. We have been slowly increasing. I do not know the pace at which we go will have to be further enhanced. That is what I feel. Because if you really want to get into the global standards, if you want to go on par with the other countries, you have to invest substantially, and you have to have your own new systems of improving that. I think you have to focus on that.
Yes.
You have to focus on that. Further, I mean, there are several gaps. That is what my understanding was.
Okay, thank you.
I'll have a small question, sir.
Yeah.
Please.
Gigi sir, the thing is like when we compare the innovation system of a commercial industry like manufacturing or any kind of parallels of it, or a commercial agriculture innovation by Jain Irrigation or any kind of companies. So whatever product they develop, they spend, maybe if you spend 100 rupees for in 100 rupees, like 40 rupees they spend for development, they spend 60 for the marketing or taking it to the farmer. So whereas we compare with our national NARES system, whatever we develop, how do you see that proportion is spent for taking the product or the innovation to the mass? Because there's a market demand, then only we have developed it. So
Yes.
How do you see that, and what's going to be the future of it?
I would not say all the research organizations should be directly involving in that kind of a business. No, I would not say that. Basically, what I wanted to substantiate was that, see, there is a larger system, particularly predominated by the private sector outside, just as you said, maybe the Jain Irrigation systems, maybe developing a product and taking it out to the people with a lot of margins for marketing, and also getting a major share of the market, which cannot be done by an ICAR institution or an agriculture university. But the issue is that innovation process does not mean that it has to be a commercial product. It need not always be a commercial product. It can be a solution to a problem, say, for example, to the community. That also can be an innovation. But again, coming back to your question, I would say that in such cases, if you are smart enough to come up with a new technology which can be readily accepted by the market, you need not involve in the process of marketing. That is where the importance of entering into linkages with people, or linkages with agencies come. basically we have to have a self-critical examination of the capabilities that you have. Whether we have the capability to say, for example, negotiate with that kind of a counterpart. Say, for example, a marketing counterpart, you can take up your product and can be marketed for which you get a share. Say, for example, the university or the ICR gets a share, a due share as an intellectual property right. So do you have the capability to negotiate with that kind of an entity and enter into an agreement? So that's the kind of new capabilities that we will have to acquire over a period of time. You should be able to negotiate with such people. You should be able to enter into contracts. Maybe at some point of time, you should also be able to evolve new products, and maybe your product is not going to be in the market as such. It could be in a different brand name, but at the same time, you would be able to make use of your intellectual inputs into that in terms of remuneration, which you get maybe out of, say, for example, maybe a portion of the profit or whatever system that you hold. So the capabilities to interact with that kind of entities have to be enhanced, and also we have to find out new ways of entering into association and partnership with such people. So in fact, all of us have been trying to do that. But the underlying thing is that we are a public institution and we should be committed to the causes of the public, basically. Even while you go for commercialization, that is my stance on that.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next speaker.
Okay. So shall I will have to, because I am in office, I will have to.
Sir.
Yeah, sir, we'll have a formal discussion at the end of the after Dr. Patnaik.
Then I will then I will remain. Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Please.
So I'm privileged to introduce our next speaker, Dr. A.K. Patnaik, a retired IFS officer, former Principal Chief Conservator of Forest Odisha and CEO of Chilika Development Authority. And currently he is a senior consultant to Government of Odisha. And I'd like to read a brief his credentials. So his professional experience, if you see, like 40 years of varied professional experience in the field of management of natural resources, biodiversity conservation, regeneration and restoration of wetlands, forest and coastal ecosystem, integrated water resource management, lake and basin management. And he headed the most successful project of restoration of the Chilika Lake with the integrated lake basin management approach, and took the lead in formulation of an integrated restoration plan for Chilika Lake and institutional arrangements and governance, and its removal from Montreux's record due to the successful restoration of the lake by Ramsar Conservation. And he formulated and implemented the World Bank aided integrated coastal zone management project for Odisha coast as project director from 2010 to 17. Through the project, the critical areas related to conservation of the coastal environment and conflicting livelihood issues were put to test the practical application of integrated coastal zone management framework, adopting the most appropriate institutional mechanism in the project area. And he acted as the sectoral head of coastal and disaster issues for the formulation of climate change action plan of Odisha. He has over 100 scientific publications to his credit. And he has been part of various committees of Government of India, Asian Development Bank, World Bank, and many other international bodies. So with this brief introduction, I request Dr. A.K. Patnaik, sir, to make his lecture on Chilika restoration and innovation ecosystem approach.
Good morning, and thank you, Dr. Subramanian, for your kind introduction and kind words. At the outset, I would like to thank from core of my heart to Dr. Sahu, the Director SIPA, and Dr. Sundarai, the coordinator of this important event. And I believe I'm audible.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and of course, I think this my sincere, kind of thanks to the institution for bringing me here for this very important event, and of course inviting me for this presentation and lecture. All right. So I was really amazed when Dr. Sundarai requested me for this. It gels with the kind of the particular events theme. Like the entire thing which I would be mapping here would be a Jan Bhagidari. I think it's a completely participatory approach, which I'll be kind of sharing with you. And thanks to Professor Jiju, I always try to, whenever whatever had been done for Chelika, because I was there for almost 2 decades. So many things comes in, retrospect, like because many concept which is coming now, we see that those have been really practical practices, which is kind of now we find them they're relevant. So anyway, with your kind permission, I'd like to share my screen so that we'll straightway go into the presentation. Yeah, all right. Let me do that. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. I think I have to just go to that. Right. So basically, I think I was also amazed when I was asked to put some kind of, the innovation part. I think this innovation, which Dr. Jiju has very wonderfully explained to us, I think all the finer details of it. I would like to, kind of share with you that some of these, kind of innovation, amazingly, they came from the community. I think it's not the only innovation, but lots of co-creation, I think, which leads to sustainability. So before I get into the presentation, my structure of presentation would be something like this. Of course, a brief introduction about the Chelika Lake. Then the problem statement, how it necessitated or what triggered for regeneration or restoration of the lake, and what strategy was adopted and what were the outcome. And I would also, kind of like to put a couple of slides on community participation for sustainability, which is the theme of today's presentation, I think, Jan Bhagidari, of course, G20 rather. And I will make a very interesting case study on Nalband Sanctuary. I think that's again a participatory research where the one of your kind of ICR institute was involved. And last, I'll just try to kind of share with you some of the takeaways from this particular case study, right? So moving ahead, I think Chelika Lake, which is a Ramsar site, and it's one of the largest wetland of India, so to say, and it's about 1,000 square kilometer, and it has got a basin which is about 4,000 square kilometer 4 times, and most importantly, about more than 192 fishes villages or fisher folk. They depend on the lake, and their number would be around who depend directly or indirectly is about 0.2 million or about 2 lakhs. And this was the first Ramsar site of India to be designated in 1981. In 1981, in fact, India became a signatory to Ramsar Convention, and Chelika was the first wetland to be designated as Ramsar site. And it's a typical estuarine wetland where it's an assemblage of marine, brackish, and freshwater ecosystem. At any point of time, these 3 ecosystems coexist, which is very unique. And that gives rise to, one of the manifestations is it's a hotspot of biodiversity because all 3 elements are there. And some of the, that's why it assumes high conservation priority. Like it has got the highest population of Irrawaddy dolphin. I think it's around 150 or so. And it is highly threatened species. And it's world's largest lake population. In other lakes also, Irrawaddy dolphin is there, but their number is unfortunately declining. This is the only wetland where its number is steadily increasing. Then it is some, kind of endemic species like this earthworm-like structure. This is a limbless king, which is found on an island, and it was first discovered by the then director of the ZSI in 1911. And it's named after that particular island. It's called Barkudia insularis. So this is a limbless skink, and it's not found anywhere in the world. And we've got very diverse diversity of fish. About 336 fish species are found. In case of about 211 migratory bird, and it's the largest wintering ground or the migratory bird in Asiatic subcontinent. About 1 million migratory bird come to this wetland, which that's why it's, as I said, it assumes a lot of conservation priority. And in case of 30 migratory species, the population exceeds 1% of biogeographical population. So this is how Chilika is. And now I'll just try to, kind of share with you what were the pre-restoration scenarios and the management challenges. So unfortunately, though it was designated in 1981 as a Ramsar site, due to the degradation of its lake ecosystem, it was included in the Montreux Record or change in ecological character by Ramsar in 1993, which was really unfortunate. And the challenges were, it's a very complex ecosystem and multiple stakeholder. Then open use of the common property resources. We all know that really leads to the degradation of the system when it's not well regulated. And so then the shrinkage of water spread area, because there is a lot of siltation due to change in the land use in the lake basin. A lot of deforestation and silt load into the lake was a major concern. At the same time, it has got an inlet to the sea. So that was getting choked due to littoral depth and heavy siltation. So the exchange of water between the sea and the lake was not happening, as a result of which the salinity level was falling, I think, very alarmingly. I think it was coming down. And at the same time, towards the end of 80s, there was an increase in the international price for the black tiger or the tiger shrimp. So a lot of unauthorized shrimp culture started, and most of the shorelines were encroached for this. So that again created a ecosystem problem. And that lead to finally the decrease in the fish diversity, productivity, and yield also. So you can see on the right-hand side of the graph, in 1985, the annual production of the fish landing was about 8,000 metric ton, which is plummeted to by end of 90s or 1999, it was hardly 2,000 metric ton. So it had a very adverse impact on the livelihood of the local communities. Many of them migrated out of the state in search of livelihood. And the shrinkage of the lake was also quite, kind of prominent because of huge siltation. So that's one of the reasons. And interestingly, I think in ZSI, they had done a very extensive survey of the lake in 1925. And after 60 years, when they did another follow-up survey, they found that the lake is tending towards a freshwater ecosystem. So when the brackish water ecosystem, the change into or transform into a freshwater ecosystem is a very sign of decay, and many times these are not reversible. So these are some of the challenges which triggered action. And basically, the government of India was also quite concerned because of the inclusion of Chilika in the Montreux Record by the Ramsar in 1993 for change in the ecological character or degradation. So the concerted effort by the state and the government of India was initiated, and Chilika Development Authority was created. So CDA, Chelika Development Authority, tried to, kind of adopt ecosystem approach for restoration of the lake, because to understand this complex ecosystem, and they're very dynamic. Like unless you have, kind of try to have a very focused strategy. So if you try to do everything, I think to, bridge all the gaps, then by the time you come up with it, that you will see that the system has changed. So what we try to do, some targeted studies to understand what are the root cause of degradation, and adaptive restoration planning. Instead of going for a, watertight, kind of management plan or restoration plan, it is like you do some intervention to address a problem, then see how the system is responding to it, and do the mid-course correction. So that you don't, kind of do something which by end of the day, you see that is not, kind of working. So, and we did not have much resource also. So we thought that, kind of let us start it in an adaptive manner and a cyclic process, through a cyclic process. Then we also integrated the lake basin into the restoration plan, because a lot of sediment was getting into the system, which was choking the mouth, as well as also the depth of the lake, particularly in certain western sector, was getting a bit from Salwar to Salwar. Then we did wide-scale consultation and strategic partnership, what Professor Jiju also mentioned. I think you have to have a wide network to, kind of, because if you want to do everything by yourself, then you may not add value. I think you have to get the value from others as well. And so it's not only with wide array of organization within the country, but we also try to, kind of reach out to the countries where such situation had arisen, and where the, like Japan, where similar lake restoration had taken place 60, 70 years back. So we also try to reach there, to reach to them and try to understand how it worked. And then here comes the Jan Bhagidari. We try to empower the local communities through capacity building, and we also involve them in the process. How it was done, I'll tell you. Then the priority on communication, education, public awareness. So that was one of the, kind of, because they are the major stakeholder, the local community. So we thought that to take them on board from the very beginning. Then ecosystem-based management and adaptation of a robust monitoring protocol, because as I have already mentioned, it's a very sensitive ecosystem with a lot of conservation values. So you have to be very careful when you do something to see to it that you are on the right track. So this is what I think this is called integrated lake basin management approach. So this is nothing but a governance system. So we tried to adopt it. It has got 6 pillars. One is the institution. Second one is the participation, which is very important. Then policy support and policy. Then, of course, you need the technology and information. Last but not the least, you also need finance, because that is very important. So these are 6 pillars on which we try to, propel our restoration strategy or restoration process. And first thing is the enabling institution. I think Professor Jiju has also mentioned you need a kind of complete support from the decision maker. So you have to take them into confidence. So the Chelika Development Authority's major strength is that the chairperson is the chief minister. So it was created in 1991, much before, kind of the lake was put in the Montreux Report. But it was in a almost, so to, I would say, moribund condition till 1997, after which we started a very concerted effort. This is a nice structure or a very strong institution. Here you can see that not only the chief minister is the chairperson, though it is known as Chelika Development Authority, but it is a registered society. It doesn't have any statutory, kind of power or anything. But by virtue of CA, chief minister being the chairperson, whatever decision taken here become almost, kind of binding, because in the next meeting, everybody is answerable and they have to say what are the action taken and on the decision. And here we have also put the local community representative, like the from the Central Society of Fishermen Society. One, the chair, their president, he's also a member, and we've got some technical members and experts in it. So this is again, kind of the networking which we adopted. Here you can see it is a wide array of strategic partnership or network, where you will see national, local organization, NGOs, civil society, then of course the international organization, community level institution, starting from cooperatives, Central Cooperative Society, outside associations, self-help groups, and of course the research institutions. So these are, I always used to say that the Cheleka Development Authority derives its strength from these partners or from this network. So, or this very, kind of bright example of Jan Bhagidari, where you have got all kind of, your partners. And so, right. So then, I always, kind of try to compare this ecosystem with a living, maybe human being, like, because these are all living system. So what happened based on the extensive studies, it emerged that the root cause of degradation of the lake is because of the fall in the salinity. And that had happened because of the soil formation along the inlet channel, which was shifting and partially closed because of littoral drift, which is a coastal process. Then based on the outcome, a rigorous model studies was done by Central Water and Power Station, and they recommended for opening of a new inlet at an appropriate location to bring the ecosystem back to 1950s, kind of position, because that was the time when the lake ecosystem was found to be in a pretty healthy condition. And so we tried to, kind of, fortunately, Cheleka has got time series data. I mean, we've got more than 100 century data by different credible organizations, including CIPRI, who had a station. So that helped us to do this modeling. And that a model, unless the input is good, you won't get the better, kind of prediction, or precision of the prediction may not be that reliable. And the strategy adopted was to opt for a more ecologically beneficial hydrologic regime to achieve the desired salinity level and recovery of the lost habitat of the important species and enhancement of the fishery resources, because that was the most precious, kind of natural resources of the lake. What was done? In fact, if you see, you can see here that this is the inlet channel, which is about 32 kilometers, and this is like a river, pretty long, and it connects the sea to the lake. So the mouth is shifted and migrated up to 32 kilometers. So entire tidal cycle used to end here, and there is no tidal influx or salinity influx into the lake. That is the reason why the salinity level was reducing. So based on the model study, they recommended to open a mouth, which is by reducing around 18 kilometers of this length, shortcutting, because people used to put a lot of nets here to catch whatever juvenile is to get into the system by auto recruitment. They also try to, kind of stop all the breeders, because the most of the fish, about 90% species of a lake are, they maintain phased life cycle, and they need to be migrated out of the lake for spawning in this coastal zone. So, so this was the recommendation by so then in 2000, October 23rd, the new mouth was opened here. By that, reduced the length of the inlet channel by about 18 kilometers. And it induced the salinity flux by about 25% and the tidal flux by about 30%. So it turned into a pulsing ecosystem. Like, I mean, there would be water level variation, and in this system, it is not like our pulse. They say that if your pulse is, kind of more, then it's more productive. So that's I mean, very kind of generic observation in a coastal ecosystem. So this is how the kind of the mouth was opened at a location where it was recommended based on the outcome of the modeling. And on 23rd October, it was 20 meter, but next day it became 210 meters. Automatically, it became because of this tidal influx. And to coming back to the impacts, I mean, how it. Interestingly, when the CWPRS director, we had an interaction, he said that I have got. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, so I'll just go back to one slide and we'll start here, right? Can you help me? I mean, where you had seen this slide?
No, sir, it's the previous slide, sir.
Okay, right. Okay, here.
Yeah, this was we are discussing, sir.
All right. Okay, great. So thank you very much. Yeah. In fact, Chilika, as I would like to share with you, is that it is connected with the sea by about 32 kilometers channel. We call it inlet channel. And because of this natural process, it is migrated to almost 32 kilometers from the lake proper. If you see from where this channel originates, if you can see my cursor, this is where the inlet channel connects to the lake. So this was happening because of both siltation as well as a natural process of the coastal process called littoral drift. So a rigorous modeling study was done to kind of to achieve the 1950s level of salinity when it was most appropriate, about 15 ppt during June, in the month of June, average salinity of the lake. So based on the modeling, they recommended a location which was about 11 kilometers from the lake proper, and it would reduce the inlet channel, the opening by about 18 kilometers. So then, based on the model finding, a hydrological intervention was done. And on 23rd October 2000, a new inlet was opened here. So you can see this is how it happened. So this was the location which was recommended based on the modeling. And on 23rd October, it was 20 meter, but next day it became 210 meter naturally, I think, because of the tidal action. So now let's see how it impacted. I mean, the hydrological intervention. One is that we found that the fish production, it increased by over 7-fold. I think the landing, if you see, and if you put the average, kind of weighted price, then it is about 140 crore only from the enhancement of the fishery resources. And as I mentioned, there was an increase in the salinity flux and tidal flux by about 30%, and it achieved the 1950s level of salinity, about 14%, which is slightly 10% or less than 2% or so than the predicted value. And there is expansion of seagrass meadows, which is a very good indicator of coastal ecosystem that indicates about its health, and increase in the dolphin population because it is at the top of the food chain. So it also considered as a good indicator that system is healthy. And the habitat of the avian fauna. After that, the lot of habitats were created for the lost, some of the species which are not coming to the lake. Now they've started coming because of that. Then reappearance of some of the native species, about 6 species, they reappeared. Then improvement of the sediment flushing. You can, because of this closure, the inlet channel. So more and more sediment used to flush out to the sea through the mouth. And decrease in the invasive species. This is very important. We lost, all our, hyacinth, which are about 30 square kilometer in one season because of the restoration of the salinity regime. You know that hyacinth is a freshwater species. And this is again a nature-based solution, of course. Now we coining this term, but during when it was done in 2000, nature-based solution was never talked about. But as I said, many things in retrospect, I try to draw. So then overall improvement of the lake ecosystem. So let's see. The most heartening thing is that in 2002, the Ramsar Convention, they sent a big technical team who did the assessment and recommended for removal of this from the Montreux record. And we are the first site to be removed from the Asia from the Montreux record in 2002. And till now, for last 21 years, though we have got more than 40 such, including 2 more in India, but none, still we maintain this distinction of first from Asia. I think no second wetland has been removed because of the restoration from Montreux record so far. Yeah, so just for your, better appreciation, I have put this 17 year of pre-restoration. You can see how from 8,000 metric ton it had plummeted to almost 2,000, and gradually it increased. And CIPRI has also done a productivity study as well as MSY. The MSY is somehow, now it is on an average 14,000. MSY is around 16 or 16,500 metric tons. So we are well within the MSY. So many people ask me how this happened. I think, is it a magic or, by opening a mouth, increasing salinity, how resalinizing the lake, how could this happen? In fact, when we tried to further analyze, we found that more than 90% of the fish species because it's a brackish water system, and they are, they maintain a phased life cycle, and part of it happens in the sea and part in the lake. So they have to, this is a sea bass. I've just tried to explain. We tagged some of these fish, and just to see, you can see that how they are migrating. Then we came to know that this salinity gradient, that gives them the sense of direction for migrating. I think this from the opening of the mouth, it's sea salinity, then gradually it decreases. So this salinity gradient gives them the sense of direction, and they have to move out to this coastal water for spawning, where the hatching of the seed would take place. Like one sea bass, maybe adult may spawn about 2 million. Out of that, very small fraction must be getting back to the lake through auto recruitment, and rest built up the stock in the coastal water. So that's why a healthy, estuarine system is very much essential and these are all continuum and connected. So here, earlier, what was happening when the breeding migration used to take place, the people used to, because it was 32 kilometer and very knee deep, so they used to put the lake across this. So after opening of the mouth, it became an express highway because the velocity was very high and the depth was more than 10 to 15 meters. So there is no scope for putting any, lake across it. So here, I think to put it in the monetary term, you can see that pre-restoration was 12 crores. So now it has gone up to 130 crores, I think, or on an average 130, 40 something. So when you do something of this major intervention, I always say that it's like a coronary bypass surgery. So you have to be very careful about the patient. You have to keep it good monitoring. So we developed a kind of a lab and also we have put some real time, some floating buoys with sensor. to telemetrically transmit the water quality data on real time. So we tried to monitor the system, how it is, kind of behaving after that. And we also did some environmental impact assessment post restoration as well, involving an IO, as well as CPRI has been doing the HISTOC assessment periodically. And JDSI is doing after again, maybe more than 30 years, another follow-ups, extensive study to find out how the system has changed after the restoration. So this is one of the luxuriant seagrass meadows. You can see globally, I think there's a concern that the seagrass meadows are shrinking, but here you can see, there's steady, of course, the 99 and 2000, there's super cyclone, there's some disturbance. After that, you can see, and January 14 is, some of you must be aware about again a severe cyclonic storm, Fani. So that they all, kind of disturbed the system. I think Chilika was almost quite close to the outfall point. But here you can see now it has gone up to 175 square kilometer, because by virtue of the implementation of order of Honorable High Court, all this encroachment has been removed. So the shoreline are now in kind of completely the regeneration of seagrass is taking place, and the ecosystem value, and it's of course a wonderful indicator where there's spawning and nursery for a number of the species, including the finfish and the shellfish. So then to capture, I think we thought that if you talk only in the technical, jargon, the DO, turbidity, chlorophyll, or the fish catch. So we thought that how to, kind of change it into a very simple format, so that we started ecosystem health report card. And this entire process, it was developed by Maryland University US. And now it is gone for most of the important, like Chesapeake Bay, then your Great Barrier Reef. So here, we adopted 10 parameters, then a threshold. Then you kind of do some like grades, and we also use color as well as these grades. I mean, based on the threshold, so you can go up to 0 to 10, then put them together. So from 2012, one is that because this color, we also put the color, and this is vetted by the local communities also, the officers. So since we've got 4 ecological sectors, so it creates, when they know that yes, earlier it was B, or now it has gone to B plus, or it is going down, then we try to, kind of explain to them. They become curious also why it is, kind of, then they try to connect it with the fish landing, or maybe the sighting of the bird or dolphin. So this is how you can reach to the policymakers. Like our chief minister likes it very much, because quite easy. Instead of going for a monitoring report with all the, kind of figures and graphs, when you go with these kind of in this format, I think they appreciate, okay, fine, kind of. So that's what communication is very important. Then here you can see that the dolphin habitat has also increased from 25.91 square kilometer, which was earlier. Only they were in the outer channel, but now it is 183 square kilometer. And this expansion can be well explained because of the increase in the prey base, because they eat a fish. So that is one of the reasons. And you can see that fish catch and the dolphin population, there's a very interesting correlation. I mean, of course, it's not that linear, but it is more or less so. So this created some kind of opportunities for the local communities. Now they have started dolphin watching as a kind of alternate livelihood. And they're using their boat slightly modified for conducting the tourists into it. And this also reduces the pressure on the fishery, because those boats would have been, kind of deployed for the fishery practices. But now this alternate income they're getting, which is supplementing to their income, and it's quite decent. I think the amount they're earning from it, both for bird watching as well as the dolphin watching. So the increase in the biodiversity has created or opened a venue for them, which is quite kind of conducive with their life. So we also tried to do a little bit of like this right hand side. Yeah, this is in the watershed where the water harvesting structures, they've started some kind of aquaculture. And we also try to, kind of help the self-help group by installing some of the very good solar dryers, efficient solar dryers, which can, so that a little bit of branding for that and selling them in the Celica fresh outlets. So, so basically this again an empowerment when the women, they get better price for the same product by a little bit of kind of deployment of skill and technology. So we also created some visitors amenities in the gateways through which the community, the visitors come for dolphin watching as well as the bird watching. And then we found, I think, through a study that in spite of this increase in the fish production, the economic condition of the fishes is not, kind of reflected proportionately. Then we found that they're under the clutch of money lender. So the interest rate was about 30% or so. So then we tried to federate the primary cooperative societies, and government also gave some, kind of share capital for initially to pump it into it. And the State Bank of India from the CSR, they kind of volunteered to handle the entire financing system. So loan were advanced at 4% simple interest. And amazingly, we found that though the repayment period was 2 years for the PFCS, they could repay the loan in 1 year. So that indicates, because that difference between 30% and 4%, 26% margin was really, kind of. So now they are growing, and this again, a institutional strengthening, I would say. And then we tried to, kind of through this network, I think we took the help of Impeda for this insulated boxes. I think earlier they were not taking, you can see the top picture. They were bringing the fish. After that, they were icing it. But now they go with these insulated box. And around 15 to 20% price enhancement is happening because of this, I think, this freshness. And we are also trying to, kind of gradually push towards the responsible fisheries and certification process, because these the fish samples are, kind of, we collect it and we find that there's no bioaccumulation. So we thought that why not go for because the certification, so that they can get a slightly better price. So I'll just I was when the theme of this G20 event was Jan Bhagidari, I thought, let me, kind of this would be perhaps the most appropriate forum to discuss this case study. This is a participatory research. So when I tried to, kind of, I was trying to why I went for it. And because I found that a number of the Ramsar sites are in protected areas, not only in India but globally, and there's a huge conflict between the communities as well as the protected area manager. So same thing was happening here, and the DFO Celica, because Celica Development Authority was making some provision for the sanctuary management as well. See, at one point, I was really, I was shocked when he asked me for more guns. He said that this local community, they're trying to sneak into our sanctuary, creating a lot of problems. So we need some ammunition. Then I could realize that this is not going to be a solution. Then I thought, let me, kind of do a little bit of introspect into what is happening. So this is a 15.53 square kilometer located almost at the central part of the lake. And it was notified as a sanctuary in 1973 as a bird sanctuary under Wildlife Protection Act. So prior to that, this particular 15.53 square kilometer was a it was leased out to the primary cooperative society to a particular village, and they used to do the fishing here. So after the notification, straight away they were, they were barred from doing any such practice. I mean, no fishery inside it. But what happened after 1973? There happened to be a conflict between the local fishers and the protected area managers, and they would try to, the defiant fishers, they would try to sneak into the sanctuary and many a times they are apprehended, their boat would be seized, their net would be seized, and there was a constant tension between the protected area manager or the sanctuary manager as well as the lake. And when we tried to, find, you can see these are some of the traps which they lay after the notification. These are all shrimp traps. So, and they get a bumper catch here. So then we became curious. I think certainly there must be, because when we asked them why you are not putting your trap away from this sanctuary boundary, they said that we don't get good catch over there. So then we thought that perhaps there's something conducive happening for the fishery. That's why they're getting better catch in that. Maybe it could be the spawning nursery or ground or something like that. So with that premises, I approached the CPRI. I approached the director for doing a kind of study. So when I used the words participatory research, he was very much upset. I think he said, this is not expected from you. You are behaving like an NGO. Why should my scientists go to the people and explain the objective of this study? But that is your job. Our people would go and do the study and give you the result. I said, no, please, let's do it in a different format, because we are also a, kind of interested party. So if we go and tell, then the fishers may doubt us also. So then he said, no, I think you will be wasting the precious, kind of time of my scientists. Apart from that, it's not going to yield any result, because your stakeholder are all illiterate. They won't understand, because we'll be using the equipment, then the AS, then we'll be using, say, C14 and all these things, what these guys would understand. So with much insistence, after 4 months or so, around 10 scientists, they came and they went into the lake, and deliberately I did not give them CDA boat. And I hired the boat from this fishers community, and in each boat, about 3 to 4 people were there. They were supposed to come back by lunch, but they came back around 5:30 p.m. I was a little bit worried. But they were quite happy. They said that now we understand your kind of insistence, because the information which we got from them in say 6 hours, it would have taken at least 6 months for us to do it by ourselves. I said that is the objective, I think, because their knowledge is not in the peer-reviewed journal. You can't get it in the kind of library. So then kind of things started moving. I think they become quite interested in doing the study, and it started from 11 to 14, 2003 years study. So basically they tried to see, what are the, like food chain, nutrients recycling, plankton, juvenile. So what is from 8 stations and 4 stations outside the sanctuary. And at every 30 days, they used to do the sampling. And interestingly, they used to also take the local fishers, because the boat used were always the local fishers, and they also use as assistants in this, so netting, kind of other sampling, operating the plankton nets. So then the outcome was very simple. They found that the guanos, or the dropping from the bird, they kind of trigger this phytoplankton. So a lot of phytoplankton we'll see, and then of course the zooplankton, and then the fish are attracted. So they found about 11 species are spawning here, native species, and 45 species are using it as a nursery. So that is very simple. So this was explained to these fishers. I think and at the same time, I tried to also, kind of explain this to the protected area manager. I said, you are managing your the bird by protecting the hermetically. There's certainly a noble job you are doing, but you must also understand the ecosystem, because you are generating another resource, ecosystem service, which you are unaware of. as a manager, you should understand all your estate. I think what are the property and what's happening inside. So it was really a win-win situation. And you can see then what happened, the outcome of the studies were very convincingly, they could explain to the local fishes that the undisturbed conservation area with abundance of food is serving as a spawning and nursery for fish and maintaining the ecosystem resilience and flow of ecosystem services. They could understand that undisturbed habitat in the sanctuary area is beneficial for the lake fish, which is leading to the better fish stock, essential for sustainable and resilient livelihood. So this thing happened. So before they could submit the report, which they did after 12 months, but the officers could, their, the output of the research was put to practice next day itself. How it happened? In 2015, the Central Cooperative Society, they resolved that they wrote to the forest department stating that please create more such kind of tranquil area, which was really, they were also taken into taken by surprise, because these people were kind of always resisting for denotifying the sanctuary. So the simple lesson learned is participatory research lead to informed stakeholder, translating scientific finding into practice, thus help in connecting ecosystem to the communities and facilitate resource efficient and inclusive management. Here, then the director was delighted also. I said that I don't have anything to say about it. Please publish them in your journal. I think because young scientists should do that, but they should be happy that their hard work could be put into practice and benefit the society and to the ecosystem as well as a whole. So that is the soul, I thought. And coming to the innovation, I think it's not one. I think when the community started, when through the entire regeneration process, they started a lot of innovation with their, from their end only. I think without any involvement of CDA or any such organization, like a shrimp pond. Shrimp, which the shrimp culture was going on in 2005, they transformed into agriculture. The mangrove plantation, and they found that it is much more paying than what they used to get from the shrimp farming. So now, about 500 acre shrimp enclosure in 2014, I think what happened, they've converted the shrimp enclosure into the mangrove plantation. So that's the transformation, and that is the kind of not only innovation but co-creation, I would say. So the Ramsar Secretary General, he visited the lake. All in a sudden, I got a mail that yes, I have been hearing so many good things about Chelika. I want to see it in my own eyes. So this gentleman was Anada Tiega, who visited for 5 days, and he spent with the community, went to the fisherman village, and tried to even went to some of the school where we had some awareness program, and now it has emerged as a global example of how the participatory process can, and also the blending of science can help in the sustainability. So an integrated management plan was prepared, and based on the Ramsar guidelines. And in 2002, we were also conferred with the prestigious Ramsar Wetland Conservation Award and Indira Gandhi Paryavaran Puraskar. And as I have already mentioned, in 2002, it was removed from the Montreal record. So I'll just conclude with these 4 points. I think this some of the key takeaways, I would say. One is that sustainable management of wetland needs adaptive institution with ability to work at multiple scales, engage with diverse stakeholders, including the local communities. I think it's not only with the scientific or the good institution or at the policymaker level, but at the community level. So that kind of flexibility should be there. Then investing into multiple knowledge-based system to benefit from cutting-edge science as well as traditional knowledge is highly essential. Participatory research, informed stakeholder, translating scientific finding into practice, helps in connecting ecosystem to communities and facilitate resource efficient and inclusive management. Then diversity and resilience are essential for maintaining ecological integrity and sustainable livelihood. And last but not the least, the investment in restoration of woodland ecosystem, adopting innovation, nature-based solution can lead to enhancement of the ecosystem services, ameliorate the biodiversity, making the system resilient, ensuring sustainable livelihood, well-being of the wetland-dependent communities. So I'll just stop here and thank you profusely for making me a part of this very important webinar. And I again essentially thank the esteemed director and Dr. Sundar Rai for making me a part of this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your informative presentation. And we could, like the 40 years of experience, we could listen the single 40 minutes. Thank you. Your mic. Yeah. And I would like 1 minute. Sir, mute. So now I would request any of our colleagues to have any specific questions. Sir can take it up and we can have another 5 minutes for it. Sir, you can unshare the presentation, sir. So any colleagues interested to have any discussion? Okay, in that case, then we will move on to the Sundari sir. We can have the formal voting.
So before that, actually, because you are associated with Chilka for a quite long time, and we could see, because when we were student at Ravenshaw that time also, now we could see how the result has come. So now this Wetland Research Institute, how do they take up this particular sustainability of Chilka? Are they have any specific plan by the government of India or government of Odisha, or it is purely managed by the CDA or the Wetland Institute? How this convergence is taking place to, like, take this particular restoration act in way forward?
Wonderful question, I think. Yes, in fact, the ministry, they want to, with the good learning, as well as since it is at the shore of the Chilka Lake. So now, of course, a number of capacity development training is also imparted here. And the ministry is thinking to, kind of upgrade into a center of excellence. And now they are open to the other wetland authorities as well as other network of Ramsar sites. And even the researchers are allowed to come and do their research. So it is open. I think it's open, and the many even they are also kind of the scientists, they're going to other wetlands where they've got similar problem, or they need some solution. So they are also trying to do the collaborative research with them. So basic objective of the ministry is to kind of making it a center of excellence, so that a lot of collaboration can take place.
So maybe this is not directly question to Chilka. Sir, there's a lot of wetlands in Odisha and other states. Freshwater wetlands are getting shrinked because of urbanization. Don't you think, like, government at any point of time, they should launch something from the Chilka by which they can restore? The best example is backside of ISKCON. It was, if it was a clearly freshwater wetland, but now things have changed. So what is, like, what would be a message out of this Jan Bhagidari program by which we can part of our proceedings to make it public this is what is required for the, whether it's a brackish water or freshwater wetland? Maybe, sir, 1 or 2 lines would be sufficient enough to part of our recommendation to the G20.
Thank you for bringing it. Right. Actually, this what happened, the Odisha government, fortunately, I think they could realize of late that these wetlands are very important, in the urban landscape. And it's because of the Bhubaneswar, we see that that ISKCON, what you said, the water logging, which was never there, yes. Because we have been kind of choked, or kind of many of the wetlands have been blocked. So now they're coming up with a very holistic program. They call it Amrut. It's by the Ministry of the Department of Housing and Urban Development Department. So they are restoring or rejuvenating more than 150 such water bodies inside Bhubaneswar city, not only inside the Bhubaneswar city only, but all the urban bodies of Odisha under this program. And here, I think, of course, I'm also advisor to that program. So what you said, I said the citizen ownership is very important. Without that, unless people think that this wetland is, kind of that they own it or they have got some stake in it. So that is there, and they are trying to do even not only the big wetlands only, is whatever small and big water bodies are there, all are in their plan, and a nice standard SOP is prepared, and they've embarked into that restoration process. So I believe within next 18 months, all the water bodies of Bhubaneswar, not only Bhubaneswar city, many of our, of the state, and Odisha is leading in this. And somehow, as you rightly said, these lots of, kind of lesson learned from Chilika are also put to practice here.
Oh, so thank you, sir. Yes, sir, we can go for so actually, director is stuck up with the visit of 2 joint secretary immediately to our office. So I'll move ahead with the formal vote of thanks. At the outset, we are thankful to Professor G.P. Alex and Dr. Ajit Patnaik accepting our invitation and delivering this particular presentation. And they said, if you look into Professor G.P. Alex, we have been trained somewhere in the innovation, but today whatever Professor Alex has told, it is more of a eye-opening for institution. Unless institutional innovation takes place, and you need to study the impact of innovation, then only we can take forward our research, whether it's agriculture or allied sector. And what he's mentioned about diffusion practices and process, this is, and the best part was customization. Unless you do the customization in the present competitive era, people may not appreciate our effort. So coming back to Dr. Patnaik's presentation, I think it is an eye-opening for any water bodies, whether it's a wetland or it's a riverine system or reservoir. How it moribund, what you use the proper word actually, how it's from moribund to it's become functional. And it has changed the livelihood of the people around Chilka. And I think that you might be knowing, because of this restoration, the Chilka monodon price has gone up in the international market. So that's what I just wanted to add information here. So we are extremely thankful to both of you to enlighten us and enlighten all the the audience who was here. And sir, and then we are thankful to our Director General, Dr. Himanshu Pathak, to lead this particular seminar, and Dr. DDG, Dr. J.K. Zena, and of course our Director, Dr. P.K. Sahu. Again, I'm thankful to all of my colleagues and the co-coordinator with me, Dr. Sibaraman, Dr. Devapanda, Dr. Avinash Rasal, and for being with us and concluding this particular 4 lecturer in 2 days webinar on the Jan Bhagidari scheme. Sir, we would like to continue our association maybe in the future occasion. It gave us a a chance to know what exactly happening in a different system. So once again, I'm thankful to you and Professor Alex and Professor Patnaik for your elaborate presentation and enlightening us. So thank you very much once again. So with this, we can call it as a day for the meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jitendra. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, before I close it, I must thankful to Dr. P.N. Anant, the head KBK Lakshadweep, for connecting me to Professor G.P. Alex and Mr. Surjo Mahanti, who is again one of my known acquaintance for long days, who made me connect to Dr. Ajit Patnaik. So before, I should not forget both of them who connected to both of you.
So
thank you, sir.
I had been to SIFAS a few years back, and also I had visited Chilka. I was so amazed by the kind of work that has been done under the leadership of Dr. Ajit Patnaik.
Yes.
So that is a wonderful work, and also you have presented it so beautifully with all statistics and illustration. It has been absolutely beautiful. I think we would certainly like to have your presence in some of our programs also. I think I would get the...
So I'll connect now Professor details, Dr. Patnaik to Dr. G.P. Alex and vice versa. I'll do it.
We also have one freshwater lake here. Shastangota, you must be knowing, and we have been
Yes.
trying to resurrect that water body, which is very precious. We have got a lot of lessons to learn from you, and also the kind of institutions which are involved in that process has actually amazed me. It actually baffled me. So many institutions are working on that particular. That's a very wonderful, wonderful thing.
But you mentioned only about the strength of this wide network. I think I was just, that's why I said in retrospect, I was trying to
Yes.
And thank you very much. I think your presentation was really, kind of very enlightening. And I thank you for your kind words. And I'll be more than happy to be associated in any way you want.
I'll get your details from Jitendra.
Yes, sir.
Vedan is very close to my heart. So I'll certainly do whatever little I can. Thank you very much.
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Thank you. I have given my phone number here. If somebody
Yeah.
here in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.